All right, everybody. Good evening, although maybe it's not such a good evening. I don't know yet. None of us really know yet, but it's a little bit more uncomfortable than I think we were hoping. I wasn't planning on making a video tonight, but we did get some news just now that I feel like is worth talking about because of its potential significance, but also because I want to kind of correct something I said in my injury report video a couple hours ago because I did briefly address this without knowing all the context and all the information because there was no way for us to know all the information at that time. And as it turns out, some of the new information we've gotten contradicts it. So let's take a look here. So one thing that I mentioned in my video that I made a couple of hours ago was how Nick Emmanwori was limited in practice today with an ankle, but I said it was probably not a big deal, and it still isn't. But let's take a look at the pool report. All right, everybody, before we go any further into this video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about the Sleeper app. We are just about to the Super Bowl. Now would be a great time to get on Sleeper. It's a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. Celebrate and chat about sports in real time with other users. You can get scores, you can get news, you get alerts with blazing fast speed, all kinds of sports stuff. You can play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. Enjoy sports together with a community. Download the Sleeper app today. And when you do, use promo code SBN for up to $100 match on your first deposit. And also utilize the free $20 entry with no deposit required. All you have to do is make an account for that one. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper and have some fun with sports this year. All right, so this is from Kalen Collar. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but it's a writer for Pro Football Writers of America. They did a pool report for the Seahawks practice today. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing because most of the stuff is just kind of not particularly interesting or relevant. But we did get some clarification on the Nick Emmanwori thing, and that is worth covering because the first time I saw it, having not heard anything concerning about Emmanwori at that time, my assumption was it was kind of a glorified rest day, and it was limited in the sense that they didn't put him through the whole rigmarole of a actual NFL practice. As it turns out, it's not quite that simple. So I want to focus in on this middle part of the pool report and let's get through it. Safety Nick Emmanwori was limited in practice on Wednesday with an ankle injury that he suffered during practice. So something did happen during practice. He was presumably going to practice in full, and then something happened that prevented him from doing so. The rookie safety, not really playing safety this year, but he is a safety, injured his ankle while defending a pass late in practice. He walked off the field on his own shortly before 4 p.m., which is right near but not quite at the end of practice based on the timeline here. Several players and coaches went over to comfort him before he left. Now, there are two parts there. First, he walked off the field on his own. That is very encouraging, right? If he's walking off the field on his own, there's a very good chance this is not significant. Now, several players and coaches going over to comfort him before he goes. You could read that a couple different ways, I guess. That's not the I mean, it kind of paints a little bit of a dour picture, but it's not necessarily dour. McDonald commented about the injury. He had an ankle today. We brought him in to look at it, and we'll kind of go from here and figure out what are the next steps. So basically, McDonald offered no real information there, and he probably doesn't know anything yet, so that's totally fair. But yeah, not exactly what I was hoping for when I saw Emmanwori on the injury report. Again, I was figuring it might be just like general soreness after a long season and a couple of well, one tough playoff game and just kind of pacing yourself through the week, but apparently no, something actually happened today that provoked the injury, breaking up a pass and injuring his ankle. So not what you want to hear. Not what you want to hear. I do want to stress though before anybody freaks out because I already know some people are freaking out and look, I get it. Everything's under a magnifying glass right now, right? Everything is under a microscope. but he did walk off on his own, which kind of dispels a lot of initial big concerns you might have. It was late in practice, so the implication is that he walked off the field on his own pretty quickly. And McDonald being vague is not, to me, that's not anything to be pessimistic about. We are talking about a situation where McDonald probably doesn't really know anything. But this is worth talking about for at least a few minutes here because, I mean, it's unexpected for one. There was no indication Emmanwori was hurt in any way, shape, or form before today. And of course, it's the Super Bowl. This looks like it's going to be a relatively healthy game. And I mean, bottom line is, and I know now is a little bit of an uncomfortable time to talk about this, there's no replacing Nick Emmanwori on this defense. And without him, things change pretty drastically. So he needs to be out there so this defense can do what they want to do. Excuse me, but there is no other player in really all of football, but certainly not on this team, that can play nickel corner while being 6'4" and 225 pounds. The whole crux of this defense, what this team does defensively is they live in nickel and still stop the run because they have a giant slot corner that functions as an extra linebacker most of the time, and they also have a phenomenal tackling outside corner in Devin Witherspoon. Those two things allow them to get away with living in nickel. Like, they'll play the Rams. They'll play teams that go to 3 tight end sets, 2 tight end sets, that go I formation, extra offensive linemen. They still don't go to base. And the reason why they don't go to base is they feel like they can get away with it because they can still stop the run, partially because Emmanwori makes that whole thing work. So there's no replacing that guy. And this was not what I wanted to hear today, that's for sure. And look, we've had quite a few incidents this season of players getting injured during the bye week or in practice, and it I know it happens on other teams. It feels like it doesn't happen on other teams as much as it's happening on this team right now, and it's gotten annoying. Like the Sam Darnold stuff a few weeks ago was rough enough. And obviously that ended up being nothing, but it is stressful as a fan to have to push through these days where you just don't know. And immediately when this happened, if you're a Seahawks fan and you were a Seahawks fan 11 years ago, your mind immediately went to Cam Chancellor spraining his MCL in the final practice before Super Bowl 49 and still playing through it, but probably not being the typical Cam Chancellor. Now, we're not there yet. There's no reason to believe this injury is anything huge, but it is something that we don't need to be dealing with. And I believe this is going to be our only padded practice of the week. So if we end up losing a very important player in Nick Emmanwori in our only padded practice of the week, that's pretty devastating. And it's not something that's going to be easy to come back from. I mean, we can win a game without Nick Emmanwori. I understand that, but without him, the way you play changes drastically. And all I can say is I hope he can practice some tomorrow, or I hope he can go through the walkthrough tomorrow, whatever it is they're doing, just for our relief. We don't need to be. If we see a DNP with Emmanwori tomorrow, regardless of whether or not it ends up being impactful, it's stress that we as human beings do not need to deal with. All right, hopefully we dodge it here, but it's concerning. The fact that he walked off the field does give me a lot of confidence that things will be okay, but it's not nothing. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. More stuff tomorrow.